Hey everyone, my name's Ella and welcome to 100 Stories Deep. Today I am reading The House of Asterion by Jorge Luis Borges. And I've chosen to share this story with you because of how it retells a well-known story but from an alternative perspective. So the story that it retells is Theseus and the Minotaur, which is a really famous myth from ancient Greek mythology. You might have heard of it before. But if not, as a brief overview, the plot of the original story is that the king of Crete kept a beast called the Minotaur, who was half bull and half man, in the centre of an underground labyrinth. Every 9 years, the king would send 14 young Athenians into the labyrinth for the Minotaur to eat. And then later on in the story, Ariadne, who was the king's daughter, and Theseus, who is an Athenian hero, together finally managed to enter the labyrinth and kill the Minotaur. So yeah, the story itself is a lot more elaborate and I would encourage you to read it yourself. But that should do for now as an overview. And this story that I'm about to read, The House of Asterion, is told from the perspective of the Minotaur. The House of Asterion. And the queen gave birth to a child who is called Asterion. That's a quote from Apollodorus Bibliotheca 3:1. I know they accuse me of arrogance, and perhaps misanthropy, and perhaps of madness. Such accusations, for which I shall exact punishment in due time, are derisory. It is true that I never leave my house, but it is also true that its doors, whose numbers are infinite, are open day and night to men and to animals as well. Anyone may enter. He will find here no female pomp nor gallant court formality, but he will find quiet and solitude. And he will also find a house like no other on the face of this earth. There are those who declare there is a similar one in Egypt, but they lie. Even my detractors admit there is not one single piece of furniture in the house. Another ridiculous falsehood has it that I, Asterion, am a prisoner. Shall I repeat that there are no locked doors? Shall I add that there are no locks? Besides, one afternoon I did step into the street. If I returned before night, I did so because of the fear that the faces of the common people inspired in me. Faces as discoloured and flat as the palm of one's hand. The sun had already set, but the helpless crying of a child and the rude supplications of the faithful told me I had been recognised. The people prayed, fled, prostrated themselves. Some climbed onto the stylobate of the temple of the axes. Others gathered stones. One of them, I believe, hid himself beneath the sea. Not for nothing was my mother a queen. I cannot be confused with the pot lace, though my modesty might so desire. The fact is that I am unique. I am not interested in what one man may transmit to other men. Like the philosopher, I think that nothing is communicable but the art of writing. Bothersome and trivial details have no place in my spirit, which is prepared for all that is vast and grand. I have never retrained the difference between one letter and another. A certain generous impatience has not permitted that I learn to read. Sometimes I deplore this, for the nights and days are long. Of course, I am not without distractions. Like the ram about to charge, I run through the stone galleries until I fall dizzy to the floor. I crouch in the shadow of a pool or around a corner and pretend I am being followed. There are roofs from which I let myself fall until I am bloody. At any time, I can pretend to be asleep, with my eyes closed and my breathing heavy. Sometimes I really sleep. Sometimes the colour of day has changed when I open my eyes. But of all the games, I prefer the one about the other Asterion. I pretend that he comes to visit me and that I show him my house. With great obeisance, I say to him, "Now we shall return to the first intersection," or "Now we shall come into another courtyard," or "I knew you would like the drain," or "Now you will see a pool that was filled with sand," or "You will soon see how the cellar branches out." Sometimes I make a mistake, and the two of us laugh heartily. Not only have I imagined these games, I have also meditated on the house. All parts of the house are repeated many times. Any place is another place. There is no one pool, courtyard, drinking trough, manger. The mangers, drinking troughs, courtyard pools are infinite in number. The house is the same size as the world, or rather, it is the world. However, by dint of exhausting the courtyards with pools and dusty grey stone galleries, I have reached the street and seen the temple of the axes and the sea. I did not understand this until a night vision revealed to me that the seas and temples are also infinite in number. Everything is repeated many times, 14 times, but two things in the world seem to be repeated only once. Above, the intricate sun. Below, me, Asterion. Perhaps I have created the stars and the sun and this enormous house, but I no longer remember. Every 9 years, 9 men enter the house so that I may deliver them from evil. I hear their steps or their voices in the depths of the stone galleries, and I run joyfully to find them. The ceremony lasts a few minutes. They fall one after another without my having to bloody my hands. They remain where they fell, and their bodies help distinguish one gallery from another. I do not know who they are, but I know that one of them prophesied at the moment of his death that someday my Redeemer would come. Since then, my loneliness does not pain me, because I know my Redeemer lives, and he will finally rise above the dust. If my ear could capture all the sounds of the world, I should hear his steps. I hope he will take me to a place with fewer galleries, fewer doors. What will my Redeemer be like? I ask myself. Will he be a bull or a man? Will he perhaps be a bull with the face of a man? Or will he be like me? The morning sun reverberated from the bronze sword. There was no longer even a vestige of blood. "Would you believe it, Ariadne?" said Theseus. "The Minotaur scarcely defended himself. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed the story. What I really like about this story is that it reminds us of how important it is to get different people's perspectives on the same events. So perhaps it reminded you of the common saying, there's two sides to every story, which to an extent is true, but I would also argue that there are as many sides to a story as there are people involved in the event. So yeah, the original myth of Theseus and the Minotaur has throughout history been told from the perspective of the victors and those in power, depicting the Minotaur as a territorial and angry beast. But this version of the story gives a previously unheard voice to the Minotaur, who tells a very different story of loneliness, isolation, and demonisation. So I've just got a couple of things for you to think about today. Can you think of any real historical or current examples of where we can learn something from the lessons contained in this story? Why don't you have a read of the original story of Theseus and the Minotaur, which you can find online? How does your understanding of the story change now that you've heard the Minotaur's perspective? And lastly, why don't you have a go at rewriting a famous myth or fairy tale from an alternative perspective? Okay, so if you would like to hear more stories in the 100 Stories Deep series, don't forget to subscribe and please share your comments in the comment section below.